Just got back from Vegas, from hanging out with our friends in property restoration and the cleaning industry at the Experience. And I was invited to speak on a panel with other professionals, Blueprint for Growth. I think it was brought up that maybe 75% to 80% of contractors report that they are either not very busy or definitely not as busy as they'd like to be. That seems to be consensus among a lot of restoration and cleaning contractors. So one of those items being, what can you do during the slow times? Help, help, help! I'm slow. What can I do? Welcome back to the DYOJO Podcast.
Hi, everybody out there, DYOJO Nation. This is the Global Watchdog, Pete Consigli.
Here at the DYOJO Podcast, our mission is simple: to help contractors shorten their dang learning curve. DYOJO Podcast.
It should also be noted that the views and opinions expressed on this podcast are solely those of the hosts and guests and do not necessarily reflect the views of any organization, company, or sponsor.
You have entered the DYOJO Podcast.
One of the things that we can use a slow period for is trying to improve our existing systems, train our teams, and get them ready for when we get busy again. So I'm going to review a little bit of what we talked about on episode 126 of the DYOJO Podcast, and this is feedback from another contractor, because the DYOJO Podcast is for contractors, by contractors, of the contractors. This is Zach from H2O Away, who says something really important about setting clear goals with your team members, even your team members in the field. I mean, we all want, you got to make more money, but do we break it down? If you did this, this, and this, that would lead to better outcomes, help the company, and make you more valuable. You know?
First Wednesday of the month, we go back to last month's data, and each crew chief or lead has a generated revenue that they worked that month, and then their job costs that month. And these guys are we generated that data per truck per lead on their revenue and job average costs per the jobs that they did.
Then you can have an honest conversation about what can we do better. Or,
exactly. And then it's great because they're competitive, but it's a friendly competition.
Yeah.
Things that you can do in the field that lead to that outcome, but also this is what we're tracking. So if you do more of this, you will stand out. It's beautiful because it's simple, right? We track the metrics. We know the revenue per truck. We know the cost per truck. Therefore, we can derive the profit per truck. This two-person team, then we can have some data-driven conversations about what they might do to better improve their revenue output and their efficiency.
Wow, that's real good, buddy.
So having clear conversations, being consistent, holding people accountable, and then arguably rewarding them for performance, but creating, a nice little positively driven competition within the company. Because what we're driving for, right, like the patch says, if it's not in the file, you don't get paid. There's these things that we need from our team members, but we don't always think about, how are we supporting them? Have we been clear? Have we been consistent? And then one of the things that usually happens in an event like the Experience or going to REA, you hear about something awesome that you want to implement. You've had this time to think about it, to digest it, and to put it into place, but it doesn't always get executed properly. Help, help, help! I'm slow. What can I do? So the Experience, I think every year around the spring, they're usually on the East Coast. This year it was in Punta Gorda, Florida. And then around Labor Day weekend on the West Coast, usually in Vegas. So the Experience is owned and put on by R&R magazine, Restoration and Remediation magazine. And I was invited to speak on a panel with other professionals, Blueprint for Growth, that was moderated by Elizabeth Furman Christensen, the editor of Clean Facts. So we got this nice collaboration between publications in our industry.
Hey, fellas.
The only person I knew previously was Ben Ricciardi, Ironclad Restoration Marketing. He's been on our podcast. We've been on his. And so it was a good time. But one of the things In that blueprint for growth that we all talked about, what can you do during the slow times? Help, help, help. I'm slow. What can I do? Ben from Ironclad Restoration Marketing just released the latest version of his book, The No BS Guide to Restoration Marketing. But he brought up a quote saying, when you're slow, taking money out of your marketing budget is like taking the batteries out of your watch to try to save time.
This is not a game, cupcake!
Of course, Ben wants you to spend money on marketing, right? Because that's one of his businesses. He actually is a contractor doing excavating and I believe it's site prep and those kinds of things in Florida. As your pocketbook tightens up, that may be one of the things that you want to pull back on. And a lot of smart people in the business arena say that that's not a good idea. Help, help, help. I'm slow. What can I do? One thing I'll put out there, to the best of my recollection, I was working for an abatement company. The whole kind of one of the impetus for the start of the DYOJO podcast, the most mediocre podcast in restoration. We were in a meeting talking about how there were these contractors we wanted to get in front of. Say Joe from ABC Construction won't sit down for coffee, won't do lunch. I can't get him on the golf course. I can't get him to this event. He won't go to baseball games, won't go to hockey games, all the conventional things you might try. What if I said, hey, Joe, I just love what you guys have done at ABC Construction. Can I sit down with you for an hour and just ask you some tips on how you built your businesses, what has made you successful? The thought being everybody's favorite topic is themselves. And we might not get everybody, but the podcast itself would never have to be successful in order to achieve that goal. So I'll just throw it out there. I've said it before, as an element of marketing and education and whatnot, podcast can be a great platform, and podcast can be Instagram, and then you can create clips from that, right? For Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and whatever else is out there, True Social. And so it's just a way you can get video, audio out there, and it's presenting your business, in my personal opinion, not always so forefront. This is the blah, blah, blah podcast brought to you by blah, blah, blah construction company, the best construction company in the planet. And here's how we do this. This is how we do all our stuff. That's not always, in my opinion, not the best way to present it. But if you're reaching out to people in the community, in your community, you're getting your name out. That was always my thought. Then they would share with other people in their network. Podcast may still be a viable entity for getting in front of customers that you might not otherwise have a path to. And then I shared from stage when we're at the experience, if Ben from Ironclad Restoration Marketing and I can put a podcast together, you definitely can do it. And at the time when I did it, there's the OGs, IAQ Radio, Cliff Zlotnick, the Z-Man, and Radio Joe Hughes. They've been doing it for forever. I mean, they've been doing podcasting before that was even a thing. It was internet radio, and you had to tune in on Fridays. And at the time, Eric and Larry were doing the Blue Collar podcast, and theirs was kind of a broader interview-based. And then Jarrett Steer was doing the GMS podcast. And both of them, all three of those podcasts, actually very little editing. They just kind of run with it and go. I chose to do it a lot harder. So to get started, I created a YouTube. Actually, I think I had a YouTube. I just changed it to DYOJO. And I asked Jarrett what platform he was using. At that time, it was Anchor, which has since been purchased by Spotify. So if you put it on YouTube, then you got the video platform. If you put it on Spotify, it goes out. I think I've got a CSS for Apple. You just look up how do you get your podcast to automatically upload to those platforms. At the time, Anchor automatically uploaded to Spotify. So you'd automatically have it on Anchor and Spotify. Then there's a page where you can put in the web addresses and it'll populate those. Some are easier than others. And so it's number one, create interesting content. I have not mastered that. And then, think about your audience, then think about your keywords. Then you also want to write a blog. if you think about that, if you're slow, that may be something fairly simple. It's free. I use a real simple platform. It's called NCH software that I record on and then edit. And by edit, it's usually, cut things out and try to shorten things, condense things, and then throw it on YouTube, throw it on Spotify. There's a program called Otter AI where you can take the audio, throw it in there, and it'll give you a write-out of the audio. And over the years, it's gotten better to where it'll give you a summary. And you can almost just take that summary, put that in YouTube, and that's your, that's your summary for YouTube and your blog post. Or you could throw that into one of the chat GPTs and say, please write an intro for my podcast for YouTube, and then throw that in. And then you can say, please write a blog post, under 600 words based on this audio. And so that's some of the ways you can kind of simplify the process. Help, I'm slow. What can I do? One simple thing that I thought, especially if you watch or listen to this, you don't have to be super talented to create a podcast. But if you use it from a marketing standpoint, you really don't, no one ever has to watch it or listen to it for it to be successful. It's gotten you in front of somebody and some real dedicated face time. Speaking of habits for success, in our book, So You Want to Be a Project Manager, talk about the need for speed. Project management is all about managing the project to completion according to the scope, on time, and on budget. You can begin to master these basics even as a technician or carpenter by simply setting daily objectives for yourself. If you know what you will be doing tomorrow, you can set out your materials the night before. Have a plan for how you will be efficient throughout the day and document for your supervisor that you have met or exceeded the benchmarks that you set for yourself. For example, when you arrive on a project, you can use the following acronym to develop your work speed. This stands for scan, plan, execute, and document. Use this sequence to set your own goals with your team and see if you can meet them. If you document your goals and how consistently you have met or beat them, this data will be helpful in showing value to your supervisors as well as for your own point of reference when you become a project manager. Scan, plan, execute, and document.
Show her you really love her with John Isaacson's new book, So You Want to Be a Project Manager.
I think, again, from that experience panel, Blueprint for Growth, that we were part of, I believe it was Ben that brought that up, investing in yourself and your team in events like the experience where you can go to the trade show and meet with vendors. Got to meet with DocuSketch. We actually sent somebody from our office to the pre-conference. It was the 360 documentation presentation put on by DocuSketch. So we got some cool toys. They got Operation Proven. If it's not in the file, you don't get paid. But they got these nice hats with the Velcro. Not a fan. Pretty funny. But also Maddie from our office, who does a lot of our inspections for our construction company, she won one of the DocuSketch kits. So it's a nice little backpack that's got your tripod, your camera, and other things in there. So that's pretty cool. We upgraded. So that made the trip worth it just there. The experience had classes and breakouts. And so there was a lot of good information in each of those breakouts. And it was cool to see as well. There was the Spanish speaking track, so that courses were available, including a town hall. So courses available for Spanish speakers and a town hall for professionals in our industry that are Spanish speaking. So that was, kudos to the experience for putting that together. Another element, I think, is getting together locally as contractors. We have all kinds of networking groups for, property managers, facilities managers, the local chamber of commerce, you name it, there's a networking group. And so, what's to stop us locally as contractors from putting something like that together? Maybe we bring a speaker in, maybe it's just a round table. We've done that in our market a few times, and it's been, every time we've learned something from it. If you want something on a broader scale, the RIA, the Restoration Industry Association, is doing continuing to do their AGA collaborative events, networking and education events. So October 16th through 17th in Charlotte, there's one coming up. Wednesday, October 29th in Memphis, Tennessee. And Wednesday, November 12th in Baltimore, Maryland. I think those are all the ones that are planned for this year. And each of those, I believe, are at different restoration contractors' facilities. But it includes education, networking, chance to hear what's going on in the industry, and share ideas and those things. And a lot of times they'll attach one of the training tracks to those, which include the certified restorer, the fire loss specialist, the content loss specialist, the water loss specialist, and the environmental risk specialist. The DYOJO is the Do Your Own Job Dojo. That's what you need for a team to be successful. Everyone to do their own dang job. You do your dang job, I'm doing my dang job. We have a fighting chance. That's a wrap for this episode. I'm John Isaacson, and it's been a pleasure sharing insights to help you shorten that dang learning curve.
This is the stupidest thing I've ever heard.
If we have been helpful, please like, share, comment, and subscribe. If you'd like to learn more about our education and outreach efforts, please check out our website, thedyojo.com. My 5 books for the skilled trades can be purchased through Amazon, including my latest, P2T, Preparing to Thrive in the Modern Workplace, which was written to help employers and young professionals build success together.
Well, that's real good, buddy.
Thanks to our guests and sponsors for making this possible. Until next time, keep thriving in the trades.
DYOJO Podcast, over and out.